Hey everybody, this is Barry Johns here. Welcome back to another edition of Studio Talk. Today I'm going to ask you this question, and it's a question I think you need to consider. When is too much gear, too many plugins, too many virtual instruments, too much? Let's get to it. Okay, so I know that statement is probably considered blasphemy to audiophiles out there or audio enthusiasts, and I get it. I understand it. The advice that I'm going to give you, or the recommendations that I would ask that you consider, because this is really not my place to give you advice on this particular subject, but ask you to really think about it, because I am as guilty gets when it comes to this particular problem. You can look around this studio, and I have invested a lot of money over many decades in amassing this home project studio that any reasonable human being on the planet would come to the conclusion that this is way beyond anything that I need, right? But I do enjoy it all. I do. And so I fall victim, like just about anybody else, where I want to try that new thing. I want to incorporate a little bit more hardware into my recordings and things like that. But you have to ask yourself, what is it you're chasing in this? What is it you're hoping to achieve? I did a video out there. It's one of my first videos out there. Basically, it's like, how many EQ plugins do you need? Slash EQ channel strips, however you wanted to look at that video. But, how many do you really need? Because, we see these new plugins that come out, and we see them demoed out there, and they're always done well by the right people, and they sound great, and they make you want to get it because somehow you think that's going to transform your mixes and make your mixes sound better. And in some situations, it very well may, but it depends on where you're at right now. One of the issues that I have many times, and let's just talk about plugins for a second. One of the issues that I have is oftentimes they're just demoing the plugin. They're not demoing against other similar pieces of hardware or other plugins. And so when you start to look at the differences between one and the next, you may find out that, hey, there's not a whole lot of difference between that and some of the others as far as getting to the end result. And that's obviously dependent upon the plugin. You find that's very, very much the case in many 1176 clones or LA2A clones. You find that very much. Now, of course, when you're getting into specialized plugins that add particular character and things like that, that's a little harder to make a comparison on. So it's easy to end up with an iLok full of plugins that you honestly hardly ever use, or you make the mistake of mixing and matching a gazillion different plugins simply because you own them and you can, and you're not really putting potentially, because I've fallen victim to this. So anything I'm saying, I've made this mistake too, is you're just putting them because you can, instead of have a thought process about where you're wanting that mix to go and what is the right tool to get you to the end result you're looking for. And so you've got to be careful, because, I've actually, the studio back there's a mess right now. I got to get my hands right because I'm looking into a monitor over here, but back over there, I've got my other camera, which is a Canon EOS R, pointed down towards my Warm Audio LA2A clone. And then you can see right back over this shoulder here, I've got a Clark Technique LA2A clone. And that's going to be a video I've got coming out comparing those two to some plugins. And I think when you do that type of comparison, it can really tell you, one, you can compare one plugin versus the other when you're trying to do apples to apples. And then you also get a chance to compare it against the hardware and really see how that stacks up to really determine, hey, between these plugins, is there really that much difference? That's question number one. And between the best sounding plugin and the best sounding hardware, that happened to be in the demo, right? Those aren't real LA2As, those are $4,000 these days, right? But they're clones, and I think the Warm Audio does a really good job of what they're doing in the price point. So, you get a chance to compare it against that, and then you got to ask yourself, well, is that improvement if there is one. Now let's assume there is one. There may not be. There was one in the 11.7, in my opinion, in the 1176 demo I did between between the Warm Audio 1176, a KT 76, as well as 376 clones. If I remember right, it was a Wave 76, a CLA 76, the Brainworks MC 77. I'm missing one of the things out there, but and the Slate one as an example. And so you got a chance to see that things are not always apples to apples, but are they good enough for what you're trying to do? And is it worth it spending that extra money to get you the improvement that you feel like you're hearing? And so the same thing comes to hardware. And I'm going to do some other samples. I've also got some Warm Audio Pultec EQs, as well as some Clark Technique. Those were actually given to me. They're right. You get that right. They're right over. Okay. Back over there. They're over there. And I don't use those that much these days. And so I'll do a demo of that and compare that to some plugins, and you can evaluate. But you got to ask yourself, at what point do you keep putting money into these things? And is it giving you the value in the improvement of your recordings? And then you've got to ask yourself, where do you stand in the scope of music? What is it you're trying to achieve? Me, I'm not trying to write music that's going to get out there and get popular on streaming platforms and be the next blah, blah, blah. I'm a little too old for that. I don't think I'm marketable at this point. So I enjoy writing music that I enjoy listening to and that I share with my friends. I also enjoy working on other people's projects to help them be creative and achieve their goals. Now, some of them may be actually trying to do something and make money with it. So I enjoy doing a lot of that. But I'm at a stage in my life and in my career and my day job, because this is not my job. This is my passion, my love. This is my speedboat. This is my ATV vehicle. This is all the things that, this is my fishing. This is what it is for me. This is my thing. And so if there is such a thing as a man cave for men, this is the man cave of man caves for people like you and me, as far as I'm concerned. I think you've got to ask yourself, because, I know me and my family, I'm married. I love my wife, and I have 5 kids. And 3 of those kids were born after I turned 40, and that was scary. I wouldn't change it for the world, but that was scary, because, you're starting kind of all over again at the stage when you should be transitioning into an empty nest, or the beginning stages of it. And so, so we're still not there yet. And, I've still got one son that just graduated high school, about ready to go to college. And I've got 2 turned 16 this month, and they're twins. And so, but my family, like many other families, has gone through ups and downs and rough patches and things like that. And I'm not going to lie, there have been times when we went through a rough patch that I had to sell some gear to help us get through those rough patches, throughout our lives. And so you amass things, and ultimately, you sometimes you have to sell that stuff. So if you're a single person out there and you don't really have any responsibilities, and as long as you're in a comfortable situation to where, you've got your little nest egg, if something comes up, your car breaks down or whatever that may be, go ahead and live it. Now's the time to live it. Now's the time to do as much of this as you can. But if you're married, and you've got kids, you've got to ask yourself, how much of this is worth spending my family's money on chasing this passion? And I'm not going to lie. There have been times I've actually been selfish in my journey with this, and I regret those times. And so I want you guys, all you people, to consider that you don't need all of this to make great recordings. You don't. I've got a friend that's got a little Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett 2 in, 2 out interface, and he has stock plugins that came with Logic, and he does some really, really, really good recordings. I mean, shockingly good. But he's also he's a talented musician, and he's gifted. He picks up on these things and understand these things, the concepts between EQ and compression and all of those things, and learning how to balance things and finding, where things sit in a mix and all that type of stuff. He's very passionate about that, but he gets these great recordings with this little itty bitty interface. And you know what? You can too. So think about that before you get sucked in, because it's easy to get sucked in, especially if you're in a lot of popular forums that focus on gear and things like that. And people want to talk about buying the next thing and get excited about this. you got to ask yourself, is that really going to do what I hope it's going to do for me? And so I think these are questions that everybody doing what we do have got to ask yourself. I'm blessed. I've got a lot of, you can't see them. At some point, I'll walk you through my guitars because I'm primarily a guitarist. That was my first passion before recording. But for the most part, I've got guitars in here that are upwards towards $5,000 or $6,000, and I've got a couple over here. I've got a made in Mexico Fender Telecaster that I absolutely love, and I think I paid $400 for it used. It's Jimmy's Vintage Music over in Auburndale, Florida. A little plug for him. If you happen to be visiting Orlando, go check out Jimmy over there. He's got some great vintage gear, and not all of it's super pricey. Like I said, I got that one over there. But then again, you could buy a real one from him and be prepared to get your wallet out, but he'll take good care of you. So, I think I would encourage all of you guys to really think about how far you really need to go. And is that next thing really going to do it for you? And so I wanted to plant that seed today. I think it's an important seed to plant. I think it's something that we all have to consider and, quite frankly, continue to reconsider as we go through this. Just think about it. Think about what you actually need and what will benefit you. And then if you get to a stage in your life to where you can afford to, spend a little bit of extra cash, I pick between this. I could go out and buy a $40,000 ski boat, but I'd rather buy this, but what you got to ask yourself though, is you're not the only one's going to enjoy the ski boat, whereas I'm the only, my son also, I have two of my sons, actually play. None of my kids, you would think none of my kids have any interest whatsoever in recording. I've got all this gear here, all this stuff that, oh my gosh, if my father had been like that, I would have just, eaten that bad boy up. You know what I mean? But it's just me. It's just me. And so, so think about this stuff, okay? Think about it long and hard. Continue to think about it. Spend your money wisely. Buy things that are going to make a difference in your recording, that's going to make you better. And these things are important. So, I'm not the guy that's out there going to tell you to go get this, go get this, go get this. If anything, I'm going to say, think about that. Do you really need it? Is it really going to do what you think it will do for you? So until next time, got to do my plug. I forgot to do my plug. If you like my videos, and I encourage you to go out and watch some others, if you like my videos, please do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe, that notification bell. I'd like to keep growing this channel. I'm enjoying doing this. And so, do that for me if you don't mind. But until you do that, I hope every one of you out there have a great and wonderful day.